Hi, I'm Mike Schuster.
And I'm Gary Mason. Note that for legal reasons, full names will not be used, and all interviews have been edited for brevity and content.
Welcome to the podcast. Just to give you a little recap of our story thus far.
Ted Price, a middle-aged man who was at a bit of a crossroads in his life, was living in Utah with his mother.
In an effort to jumpstart the second chapter of his life, he enrolled in a radiology school, and then he traveled down to Arizona to get his degree.
But while he was down there, he was trying to reignite his relationship with his ex, Catherine, and her two children, Maria and Wesley.
His family was against the idea, but they didn't want to make waves, so they let him go without much of an argument.
A couple weeks after he was there, police discovered his body in the desert. He had been murdered. Cause of death? 4 gunshot wounds.
Law enforcement investigated, and after months, they were able to focus on a particular night in early December, and the last time anyone ever saw him alive was in this ex-girlfriend's apartment.
Right. He had been in an argument with Catherine over how she was living her life and how she was parenting her kids. She hit him in the head with a phone and then left.
2 people helped a woozy and incoherent Ted to the car. A man was named Aaron Gunches, and the woman was named Jennifer, nicknamed Lily.
Right. We resume our story at the bus station. Aaron has gone into the building, and Jennifer is at the car with Ted. They are supposedly there to put Ted on a bus back home.
Jennifer is telling her story to the lead detective, Seagraves.
Again, incoherent, trying to say words and wasn't able to speak, wasn't able to get sentences out, and was just drooling and just couldn't talk and just kind of laid there and looked at her. And a couple times she looked back at him and said, "Are you okay?" And he couldn't respond.
Aaron Gunches was a bit of a hothead, and he had been barking orders at Jennifer since he arrived at the apartment. And he had a gun. So Jennifer's been doing as she's been told, thus far anyway. But now, Gunches was in the bus station for about 5 minutes.
Right. So Jennifer was alone outside the building, and she's scared, but she could take off, bring Ted to a hospital, to the police, something, but fear has too tight a grip on her, and she simply waited there.
Yeah. According to Jennifer, Aaron came out of the bus station without buying a bus ticket for Ted. She asked Aaron what the plan is, and he responded, "I don't know yet." Apparently, Aaron didn't have enough money to buy a bus ticket for Ted.
Yeah. Aaron made a phone call. Jennifer assumes he was talking to Catherine, Kat, but we don't know for sure. Then they got back in the car and began just driving.
Aaron instructed Jennifer to drive towards Saguaro Lake. Saguaro Lake is a dammed reservoir about 30 miles away.
So there they were. Jennifer was driving, Aaron's in the passenger seat, and Ted's in the back, kind of lying down. And they're driving down the highway for roughly about 30 minutes. And this drive takes them through the Pima Maricopa Native American community.
Right. I can only imagine what this drive was like for each of these 3 people, right? What was Jennifer thinking? What was Ted thinking? Was Ted thinking? Right? Aaron was known to deal drugs and take drugs. Was he high on something?
Yeah. At some point, according to Jennifer, Aaron instructed her to pull off the highway.
Jennifer told him that there is no road. And he responds by saying, "I don't give a fuck. Just drive back there." So she tells the detectives that she drove down a dirt road and while doing so, hid something underneath the carriage of the vehicle.
As they drove through the brush and desert, Jennifer says that Ted sat up and tried to grab her hair clip. She says that Aaron turned around and said, "Don't you fucking touch her."
Right, and she continued to drive until Aaron ordered her to stop the car. So here's Detective Seagraves discussing Jennifer's statement about that night.
So I stopped the car and he got out and he said, "Pop the hood and pop the trunk." So I popped the trunk first and he was in the back of the trunk and I opened my door and I was getting out of the car and Ted sat up, stepped out of the car and stand up And he was like, where the fuck are we? He goes, where are we? And I was like, I don't know, dude. And Gunch threw me a flashlight and told me to look under the car and see if there was a leak because I had hit at this dip thing. I was looking under the car to see if it was leaking, and Ted got out and he started walking around like over there a little ways.
So at this point, apparently, Ted was conscious enough to walk on his own. But neither Jennifer nor Gunches seemed to be concerned about him running away.
Right. It's possible that whatever he'd been under the influence of, whether it was his own unconsciousness, a drug, or something else, maybe a taser shock, it was wearing off.
And then I heard footsteps, and I looked over and I see Gunch's feet going the way toward Ted was wandering off over there somewhere. And I heard these 3 little pop noises. It wasn't even loud. I didn't know what the fuck it was. And I turned around and he was like fucking, and Ted was just stumbling and like he fell down. And I was like, what the fuck? And Gunch had a towel in his hand. So I never seen the gun, just a towel in his hand. And I was like, what the fuck? And Gunch slammed the trunk shut and Ted was gasping for air. And then like Gunch was freaking out and he was like, what the fuck's wrong? And I don't remember what he was saying. And he was like, looked at me all crazy and it was like, here, take it now. And I was like, what? What are you, fucking stupid? He told her to take the gun. He told her that she needed to shoot the victim. And he shot like a couple shots off or whatever. And he said, here, you better take this. What did he say? He told me, you better fucking take this right now. And you're like my partner and shit. And we're in this together.
This is an interesting turn of events, right? Gunches is a hothead, and he seems like pretty much a meathead thug, right? But he's demonstrating some sort of reason here, albeit poorly conceived. Here's Seagraves again.
I was looking at Ted like telling me, you better shoot this motherfucker too. You're my partner. We're in this together. Fucking whatever. And I was like, you're fucking nut, dude. And then that's when he just started getting all crazy. And it was just like, whoa, it happened so fast. And he kept telling me like 4 times, better pull the fucking trigger. And I just looked at him and I looked at Ted, the back of him, and I just looked away and I pulled the trigger. And Ted was like off to the side over here. And there's no way I could have shot him. She denies that she shot anybody, but she said that she fired the weapon.
You know, this is a very powerful description of a murder, right? I think it sends chills up and down your spine.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I've never been involved in a murder, so yes, this does.
Yeah, why did Gunches make Jennifer shoot Ted?
You know, I think Gunches was scared. And I think he was especially scared because he had shot him 3 times and he was still alive.
He wasn't dead yet. That's
he wasn't dead. He was like, oh my God, I shot him 3 times. The guy's still going. Shoot him, you know. I think he panicked. I think he got scared. He's a big bully, but I think he got scared.
Right. Yeah, that's possibly true.
You know, why does Jennifer shoot him? Why does she go along with the plan here?
Well, why doesn't she just shoot Gunches? I mean, I don't know. Like, she seems to have like some semblance of reason because she claims she didn't shoot Ted on purpose. Maybe so she's less culpable?
Well, you know, she may have been afraid of him. I mean, he was, especially, you know, when you're with someone who's kind of panicking and he was the older person kind of taking the lead here and then he's panicking and you go, oh, okay, I'll do whatever.
Right, that's the other thing. He's almost twice her age.
Yeah, yeah.
She was scared because she said that Aaron Gunches knew her family and knew that she was close to her brothers and sisters. And she feared that, you know, she knew he was capable of shooting somebody. And she had just witnessed it. So she felt that she was, that she had reason to be fearful for herself.
It's not clear whether she literally aimed the gun at him or shot it in the air. Every time you hear a report of this, it's something different.
Right, well, there are only 2 people who know what really happened, and that would be Gunches and Jennifer.
Right.
Right? So I don't think either one of them is going to tell us And if they do tell us, I would be suspicious that it's the truth.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
But here's Detective Seagraves continuing Jennifer's story.
He gathered up the shell casings and he got back into the passenger side. She got back into the driver's side and he told her to drive. And as she was driving, he unrolled the window and shook the towel outside so that the shell casings would fall outside of the car while they were driving. And they continued to drive to a location where there was a shopping center, and that he told her to stop, and he threw the victim's property away and threw the towel away, and then he told her to get out of the car and get into the passenger seat, and then he drove from there. They had stopped at the grocery store to when he went and dumped the victim's property in the garbage cans and got rid of the towel, that he leaned over and he tried to kiss her.
Well, then they drove back to Catherine's residence.
There's an awful lot going on here. Who is the real guilty party here? Is it Gunches, or is it Jennifer, or is it the both of them?
So here's my opinion on who's the most guilty one. Gunches. I think he is the main guilty party. I think that Jennifer is clearly an accessory.
Clearly.
But, she had no knowledge that this is where they were going to end up and this is what they were going to do. I mean, as far as she knew, they were going to just drop him there and head out. And then suddenly she hears these noises that turn out to be gunshots.
Right.
And then she's forced against her, at least potentially, she did this.
If we can believe what she says.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's pretty clear that, so there's a couple things, right? One, Jennifer didn't set out to kill Ted. I don't think that was her motivation when they got in the car.
No.
My question is, did Gunches know from the beginning? Did Gunches put him in the car to take him somewhere and kill him? Or is that just, again, like you said, he was panicking. They take him to the bus station. They don't have money for a ticket, which you think they would have checked before they left the house. But okay, they're all high. So they get to the bus station. They don't have money for a ticket. They put him in the back of the car. They start driving around. And
He had talked to Kat, too, just before they headed out.
well, that's what I was going to say, right? That he's driving around like he got nothing to do. But over time, he talks to Kat before he gets to the apartment. He talks to Kat at the bus station, presumably to say, what the hell? You didn't give me any money. I can't buy this guy a bus ticket.
Yeah, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do? Then they get out to Saguaro Lake, and he gets out of the car again and starts talking on the phone, presumably to Kat. Jennifer tells us she couldn't hear the conversation because she was in the car and he was out of the car. And then they get back in the car and he tells her, oh, screw it, just pull off here and drive up that way. And then they take him out of the car and kill him. So was it premeditated? Did he set out to kill the guy? Or was it just, oh, crap, I have no idea what we're going to do. This is the only thing I can think of.
Remember when he arrived at the apartment and he's got his gun against his head? So he had ideas of killing him, and Michelle, and no, don't make a bloody mess here. We've got friends coming.
Right. Don't do it here.
Don't do it here. So he had thoughts of that right from the beginning. But then I think cooler heads maintained, after talking to Kat, okay, let's just try to get him on a bus and get him out. And obviously that's not going to work. And then even here, you don't know whether he had planned to shoot him or whether he just planned on dumping him there. And she could have said, well, just get rid of him, quote unquote, rid of him without saying kill him. Right. Who knows?
Who knows? I would love to have Kat be able to tell us. That would be the best thing, but obviously.
Right. And Kat is reasonable as an accomplice, too. I think bears some guilt right from the beginning. She's the one that started the whole thing.
Right. Well, she's the one that called Gunches. I mean, again, it's a supposition, right? Because what we're told is she went into the bedroom and made a phone call, and nobody heard what was said on that phone call.
Yeah.
So we just don't know. Yeah. So as she's talking to the police, Jennifer is pointing the finger solely at this guy, Aaron Gunches. But we need to remember, when Jennifer is telling this story to the police, it's been roughly 11 months since the murder.
Yeah. This is not the first time investigators have heard the name Aaron Gunches, and they heard it many months ago from Kat's roommate, Michelle.
Right, but according to Michelle's story, Gunches and Jennifer left the apartment and Ted was alive. I mean, it's not the literal smoking gun that Jennifer's story gives us.
At this point in our story, we need to take a few steps back. While the investigators with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office have been looking for this guy, Aaron Gunches, it seems like he'd skipped town. And indeed, he had.
But what they discover is that he's actually not that far away, right? As luck would have it, he's actually in custody in nearby La Paz County, about 120 miles west, and he's been there for a while.
So let's take a step back in time, back to January of 2003. Just a few weeks after Ted Price's body had been found, a man in a 1990 red Nissan 300S ZX is driving along Interstate Highway I-10, just east of Quartzsite, Arizona.
Right. And at around 9 p.m., a DPS officer named Robert Flannery pulls over the Nissan for having a taillight out.
According to Flannery's report, the driver is a white man between the ages of 35 and 40, and he's long, dark hair and a ponytail and a goatee.
The vehicle is registered to a man named Bernard Levine, and it's got California plates. But Bernard Levine is not the one driving the car.
No.
It's Aaron Gunches.
The car, having California plates, is not super unusual, considering the California state border is just about 30 miles away.
Right. Now, Flannery's a good cop, and at this point, he's trusting his instincts. He notices the driver is acting a little peculiar. So Flannery makes a wide-angle approach to the Nissan from the rear passenger side.
He lifts up his flashlight to shine the light into the interior of the car, and at this point, the driver then levels a handgun at him and fires 3 rounds at him.
Right. And Flannery then returns fire through the rear window, smashing out the glass. And he crouches into a defensive position.
At this point, the driver slinks down into the front seat and hits the gas and speeds away into the highway, leaving the officer behind.
So Flannery then calls for backup and reports that the suspect has fled in his car. Flannery would have given chase, but he's been hit.
Right.
Twice.
At this point, the suspect has now shot a cop, something that is not taken lightly by the law enforcement agency, and he's on the run.
So we got Gunches in custody in La Paz for shooting at a policeman. We've got Jennifer saying that Gunches is the one that shot Ted. So it's the fact that Gunches has shot this cop sort of lends credence to the idea that Jennifer is telling the truth about Gunches shooting Ted. Right. But they don't have any evidence of it yet. All they have is Jennifer's word. And the other question is, why in the world did Gunches shoot at a police officer?
According to the records, we know that Gunches had warrants for his arrest out for other things.
Oh, right, because he was a drug dealer and a car thief as well.
Right. And credit card thief. And
credit card theft, right.
And this and that. Yeah. So, that's what he was worried about. Now, it is amazing that he risked another murder just to avoid those minor charges compared to murder, unless he thought that they had suspicions about him in the Ted Price murder.
It could be because he knew that the cops had been to Kat's apartment and had captured his name in one of the sweeps, talking to people there.
This is not that long after the event either. This is like 2 months later, I think, right?
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks later, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he's probably nervous. He probably feels like he's going away for a long time. And of course, the rational solution to that is to kill somebody else.
Right. Right. And run.
Right.
All right. Well.
Right. Well, Gunches has perceivably killed one person and maybe a second. How does the chase end? Find out in the next episode. I'm Gary Mason.
I'm Mike Schuster.
This has been Aftermath of Murder,
the series.
Please join us next week for episode 6.
A Fool for a Client.
So he shot the DPS officer and sped off.
And the state of Arizona, it has the death penalty.
Right. Be sure to check out our webpage at aftermathofmurderseries.com for more information, access to special content, merchandise, and more.
Our writer is Darren Coyle. This has been a Closure AOM production in association with KM Voice.